Hey guys, Jesse here once again. It is the 4th of July. I got your weekly dose of marketing where I'm going to talk with you about how to optimize your online environment and also how to utilize customer lifecycle automation in order to give your business what it needs to grow, and inevitably removing the constraints within your business so that you can experience the growth in order to drive revenue and also shorten your sales cycles. So I'm just going to share with you our experience in regards to helping our customers, what we're seeing in the marketplace, and some of the things from a nuanced standpoint that we're utilizing in order to help our clients grow. Of course, we believe that confusion is the killer of execution, and really the way that you can be successful in the marketplace, not by consuming more information, but by building a team and executing better than your competition. So that doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur or building a business. These are really great strategies that you can focus on in order to realign your focus on a daily basis and inevitably go out there and win in your market. And we're a firm believer of speaking into domains where you have authority and that you can give insights and or you can help people shorten the timeframes associated with achieving success within their business. So I'm not going to share with you anything that I haven't experienced for ourselves and or do have experience and or domain authority when it comes to helping our clients. So today I'm going to talk with you about customer lifecycle automation and how we really remove the confusion associated with going out there and helping our clients grow their organizations. If you have any questions, of course, and you're part of the Lifecycle Client Automation Facebook group, you can ask those in the feed on the Facebook group. If you're watching this on some other channel that we've syndicated on, go ahead and leave a comment and we'll get back to you as soon as we can. So with us, what we'd like to do with our clients is basically remove the confusion associated with the next step is. And when we talk about customer lifecycle automation, we look at it from a standpoint of what are the constraints that are limiting the growth of our business and or our clients' businesses, and how can we remove those constraints? Now, there's 3 areas that we focus on when we talk about removing constraint. One of them is lead generation and removing the constraints associated with generating prospective customers and or patients for your organization. Another one is customer acquisition, and how do we convert those customers more effectively? What does that look like from a business process standpoint? And then third area that we focus on is customer retention and re-engagement, meaning how do we maximize the revenue associated with each one of our prospective customers? And then also, how do we get them to refer us business and or repeat their business on a go forward and ongoing basis, which inevitably would build sustainability within our organization. So let's talk with you a little bit about the first challenge that we take a look at, which is lead generation. Now, there's 3 aspects that you can break lead generation up into. It's targeting, who it is that you're targeting. And this is part of the Local Legends marketing methodology. The first step in that 5-step framework is to identify who your dream customer is, because it's incredibly important from a communication standpoint. And it's also important to understand what their challenges are so that you can target them and communicate specifically to the challenges that they're facing within their organization. Because the second step or the second piece of the puzzle when it comes to lead generation is attracting those leads and really having a way to communicate with those leads from a place of empathy so that they feel like that you understand the challenges that they're facing and that you have a unique and exciting way for them to overcome those challenges. And then inevitably, you got to have a process in place in order to capture those leads, whether that's a phone call where you're tracking and recording that phone call for training and conversion processes, whether it's an online marketing campaign where you have attributions set up so you can take a look at the ads that are converting for you and how it is that you're contacting them, whether it's a lead form, a phone call, you're driving them to a web page, you're converting them online. These are really great buckets to focus on where you can say, hey, how do I remove the confusion about what is next? Well, when you're talking about lead generation, targeting is the first step. Well, how can I target my prospective and or dream customer more effectively? First step. Now, how am I going to attract them to me? First and foremost, you want to make sure that they understand that you understand their pains and that you have something that they desire in regards to solving those challenges and or pains. And then you want to have a process and or system in place where you can capture name, address, phone number, and you can move them into your customer acquisition process and inevitably close more business. So if you think about your business as, hey, how am I going to remove constraints? First constraint that you're going to focus on, or that you should focus on, or what we focus on with our clients, is lead generation. And really just saying, hey, in this bucket, what do I need to do in order to generate more leads for my organization? First and foremost, you need to be able to target, or when I say that, is know where your prospective or dream customers hang out at, and you can easily target them. And there's a couple of different ways that you can do this, regardless if you're paying paid advertising, you're utilizing organic reach in order to originate content and looking for backlinks in order to drive SEO, or you're utilizing, whether it's Google and their channels of marketing and or online advertising, or using Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, or some of those other challenges that are most effective in regards to targeting your dream and prospective customers. Now, once you understand where they're hanging out, what you can do is think about how you can attract them. And the easiest way to attract somebody is really understand what their challenges or what challenges they're facing within their organization today, and communicate how they can overcome those challenges by shrinking timeframes and or accessing some of the tools and or services that you provide in order to overcome those challenges. And then once you've done that from a targeting, messaging, and putting your message in front of the right prospect at the right times, what you can do is you can work on the capture process, whether it's a web form, a phone call, whether you're trying to convert people online in some kind of e-commerce environment. This would be the framework associated with moving constraints with your lead generation campaign, so you can drive more visibility for your organization from an advertising standpoint. So once you get lead generation taken care of and you start to remove those constraints associated with generating more leads, what you want to do is you want to move into the customer acquisition process. So in theory, what we've done is we've collected the information that we need in order to nurture that lead, or can work on converting them into a prospective customer, patient, appointment, or whatever it is in regards to your customer acquisition process. So the next step to focus on is acquisition. Within acquisition, we have 3 steps to focus on: engage, offer, and close. So from an engagement standpoint, what you want to do, make sure that in the lead capture phase of your framework, that you're capturing the information that you need in order to engage them. Name and email is inevitably the lowest resistance, which may increase the amount of leads that you capture. But if you're taking a look at converting or actually filtering out a higher level of prospective leads and really focusing on people that you know are very interested in what it is that you're offering, you might want to take a look at capturing more information on the front end. There's a couple of different ways that you can do this. You can survey them. You can request more information like name, address, and phone number from a cell phone standpoint, because we know that a cell phone view rates are much higher than email. So for some type of lead gen campaign that you want to convert a tremendous amount of leads, what you would do is reduce the amount of friction associated with that and just get the name and phone number. If you wanted to get more targeted and or filter out more of those people, maybe you're doing more of a mass marketing campaign in a specific target market, and you want to get your message in front of as many people as you can from a branding standpoint, then you might want to ask for more information on the front end. You might drop them into a survey. You might ask for their phone number so that you can engage them via SMS or MMS. But what this does is it gives you the ability to filter out prospective leads and start to convert them or start to communicate with them from a acquisition standpoint. Now, once you've developed a relationship, and you don't want to do this too early, what you want to do, and some of the strategies out there, is the longer you can delay the ask or put an offer in front of somebody, the more value that you provide to them on the front end. And the longer you delay that ask, the bigger your ask can be, or the bigger your offer can be. So for instance, if you have a high ticket item and or a high priced item, you probably want to think about staying in the engagement phase of your acquisition campaign for a longer period of time, provide more and more value in that engagement stage before you actually put an offer in front of that lead. So once you get the offer in front of the lead, what you should be thinking about is creating an offer that makes sense and that is a no-brainer offer, or an offer that's so good that people would feel dumb saying no to. And you want to work on the close. Now, when you talk about closing a prospective customer, what you want to do is make sure that you're closing in a way that increases your likelihood of success, meaning that you're communicating the benefits associated with your offer. You're also communicating any type of warranties and or guarantees, and you're hitting those very, very hard. And inevitably, you're removing risk. You also want to make sure that you are providing or pulling on the psychological levers associated with closing that offer. Trust and credibility, social proof, urgency, scarcity. These are all psychological levers that you can pull on in order to increase your likelihood of closing that prospective customer. And inevitably, that should be a phase of your customer acquisition system and or the lifecycle automation system. So again, I'll go back over these for customer acquisition. We engage, we offer, we close. Those should all be worked on individually and be a seamless system in order to increase the number of clients that you are converting in your business on a regular basis. Now, once you close that customer or patient or whatever it is, book that appointment or whatever it is that you're doing in regards to converting that lead, what you want to do is go to work on creating relationship or retaining that customer for as long of a period as you possibly can. They say that a prospective customer decides whether or not they're going to buy from you again within the first 48 hours of purchasing the first time. So what you need to do is you need to go hard at delivering on your promises very early on after they purchase initially. And you want to sell for reviews, you want to sell for referrals, and you also want to sell for repeat business in that first 48 hours. So there needs to be a tremendous amount of engagement. There needs to be a process in which they understand the product delivery process, and it's clear and they know exactly what to expect from the time that they purchase the product to the time that they're a repeat customer. So there's 3 phases to customer lifecycle automation: lead generation, customer acquisition, and then also customer retention and or re-engagement. And in those 3 phases, you want to make sure that you're absolutely focused on the 3 steps that'll increase your likelihood of success within those phases: targeting, attracting, capturing, engaging, offering, closing, and then selling for reviews, referrals, and repeat business with each one of your customers, and really going strong at delivering on your promise very early on in the process. So that's the customer lifecycle automation, and it's a lot easier to think about those areas and those steps within that framework if you think about, well, what within my business can I remove from a constraint standpoint so people really understand that it's easy and we have low friction in regards to doing business with the organization. We reduce the amount of friction and we make it really seamless and effortless in order to do business with the organization. And the key to that is to think about it from a standpoint of, let's remove the constraint. All right. So from a targeting standpoint, you want to remove the constraint of ambiguity. You want to make sure that people are very clear about what it is that you're offering and who it is that you're offering it to. From an attraction standpoint, you want to get clear about the challenge that you're overcoming and how you're overcoming those challenges, and reducing the amount of time frames, or reducing the time frame associated with solving the challenge that they're facing within their organization. So that needs to be communicated and articulated very effectively. You need to have a seamless process in order to capture those leads: name, address, phone number, whether or not you're utilizing a survey on the front end in order to filter people out. That's all got to be seamless within your organization. You need to make sure that you're doing that on a regular basis, and you get your message in front of a lot of people, because it's basically a numbers game at that point once you get these steps in place. Now, from an engagement or an acquisition standpoint, you want to make sure that you have items in place in order to engage people on a regular basis, whether it's email marketing, SMS text messaging, whether or not you're providing value and or free resources and you're delivering those to people on a regular basis, whether or not you're building value for their business in some type of freemium or premium offer on the front end. So these are all ways that you can engage people and communicate with them on a regular basis. Again, the key with engaging before you deliver the offer is the higher the ticket item that you provide, and the longer you can delay that offer, the bigger you can make that ask. So that's the important thing to understand from an offer standpoint. If you have a low ticket item, you might be able to convert them online or even convert them before they schedule an appointment. I mean, if you're asking for a $47 fee or a $49 fee in order to schedule their appointment, in order to reserve their spot, that's very easy to do. If it's $4,997 before they can reserve their spot, that might be a little bit more challenging. You might have to do more work on the front end in order to accomplish that. And from a closing standpoint, you want to make sure that you have everything in place from a psychological standpoint in order to increase your likelihood of success for closing appointments, closing for new clients, closing for new patients, and everything of that nature. So make sure that you utilize and leverage scarcity, urgency, and make sure that you have a tremendous amount of content built around trust and credibility, which can be FAQs, it can be certifications, accreditations, things of that nature. And then make sure that you really hit hard on any type of warranties and or guarantees that you provide within your organization to increase your close ratio. And then once you convert them into a customer, make sure that you sell hard in that first 48 hours in order to develop relationship, deliver on your promise, and then move right into the review, referral, and repeat business standpoint so that you can speed up or accelerate your likelihood of success. Because again, you take each one of your customers, you deliver your product and service faster. You also get reviews from them. They potentially develop or fall into some type of referral campaign or program, and you communicate that. And inevitably you upsell and or cross-sell them in that 48 hours, then your business is going to be more profitable. You'll be able to build more sustainability within your organization. So this is what we're seeing in our organization. Also, this is what it is that we follow for each one of our clients in regards to their business process development and creating lifecycle automation, where we take them all the way from the initial contact all the way through a return and repeat business, and then just repeat that life cycle and automate it as much as we possibly can so that we can drive revenue for our organization and also for our clients' organizations as well. That's all I have for you today. I wanted to talk with you about that process, and it becomes a self-fulfilling circular process that starts with lead generation and then runs people through all the way through the process. And Amazon actually talks about this in their business model. It's called the flywheel effect. And it's one of the things that we talk about in customer lifecycle automation, where once you create this flywheel where customers are driving sustainability within your organizations through reviews, referrals, and repeat business, and you're adding customers to that on a regular basis, and shrinking the timeframes associated with your product delivery, that flywheel effect, or that flywheel effect that you have within your organization, is going to drive sustainability, longevity, growth, sales, revenue, and inevitably create the business and or lifestyle that you're looking for within your organization. So some cool things. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comment sections. I'm sure we're going to provide some access to some of our resources online for you in case you want to get more information on customer lifecycle automation. It is the 4th of July, so remember the reason for the season and celebrate responsibly. And until the next time we speak, which will be very soon, hopefully, make today and every day a fantastic day. We'll talk with you real soon.